And the professor answered, well, he said very simply, Israel has struck oil. And Friedman said, there's no oil in Israel. What are you talking about? And the professor pointed to all of the students in the room. And he said, these are our oil wells. Well, here are my 5 recommendations for finding oil wells in Toronto. First, we must take our lessons from great cities from years gone by. The New Yorks, the Londons, the Tokyos, the great cities of the world. They did not become great cities by accident. They and cities like them were river ports or seaports or railheads. They grew around the transportation imperative. They grew where they were for a reason. The great centers of growth in the next millennium will be based not on seaports, river ports, cattle crossings. They'll be based on knowledge. They will grow around universities, community colleges, healthcare institutions, R&D facilities. And where these knowledge bases are present, just like an oasis in the desert, you will see a flowering of culture, of knowledge, of industry, and jobs, and activity, and growth, and energy. It's no coincidence that the top U.S. computer science departments are Berkeley and Stanford, which spawned Silicon Valley, MIT, which spawned Boston Route 128. In fact, MIT is a story in itself. It has spawned 4,000 companies, creating over 1 million jobs. We must understand that the world we live in is truly flat. All competition is global. The Ricardian theory of comparative advantage is going to be ruthlessly efficient in the allocation of resources. We have no choice but to invest in the only sustainable advantage, and that is knowledge. That must be our burning platform. We must get rid of the old-fashioned separation of academe, industry, and campus, industry and government. The new buzz phrase on the university campus should be collaborate or perish. I know we think we have a high level of educational attainment. By some measures, we do. We have very high post-secondary education participation rates, largely because we have so many people in community college. But we are huge underachievers when it comes to advanced degrees in science and engineering. Ontario produces only half as many people with master's degrees per capita as the United States, and about 75% of those with doctoral degrees. And by the way, China will graduate over the next 10 years as many PhDs as the entire country of Canada. Engineers, about 6% of our undergraduates earn such degrees. In Japan, Germany, South Korea, and France, engineers are 20% of all graduates, and in China, 45% of all baccalaureates are in engineering. In a recent article, Roger Martin and James Milway were arguing we also have a significant shortfall in terms of business leadership. In business education, we graduate only about 59% of as many students per year as the United States per capita. We have great institutions in our country. We just must light a fire under them. Now, one great advantage that we have in the country is our openness to immigration. Especially since 9/11, the United States has effectively shut down its borders to immigrants, especially university-bound immigrants, and now Australia and Europe and Canada are by far and away the biggest recipients of these extraordinarily talented people. One study indicates that for every 100 foreign students who received an American PhD in engineering or the physical sciences, the United States got 62 patent applications. Now, what a return on investment. So it goes without saying that we must not only attract more highly qualified immigrants, but we must make sure they're properly treated when they get here. Our record in that respect is abysmal. This is another burning platform. Secondly, we have to improve our productivity. And we have to find a better way of talking about productivity than even using that word. It's a quality of life issue. If we can become more productive, our quality of life will improve dramatically, and we have to convince Canadians that this is something that directly impacts on quality of life. It is not sexy to talk about productivity, but it is truly a burning platform. We're bad, and we're getting worse. So far this decade, our gains in productivity are roughly 60% of the group of 7 average. We are resting on our laurels. We're coasting, while everybody else has a greater sense of urgency. The most important investment we can make in productivity is information and communications technology. And we're investing at a rate where we only have 46% of the capital stock of ICT per worker as the United States of America does. That's why the United States of America, even with a robust dollar over the last number of decades, can be the most competitive country in the world because of their huge productivity. We trail American productivity by 19%. If we could achieve parity in productivity, it would release some $75 billion into government coffers in terms of additional revenues, not even to speak of the impact it would have in the private sector. With our dollar rising probably to parity in the coming year or years, this is lethal, our lack of productivity. This should be another burning platform. Thirdly, all of our levels of government must be fully aligned and working together, because governments must play a leadership role in a new prosperity agenda. Ontario deserves full credit for getting its tax structure and R&D structure much more supportive for this type of high-growth agenda. And there is always more that governments can do. We can integrate immigrants better than we're doing. I don't think there's any doubt about that. We can also applaud business success. The next time Onik buys a new company in the United States, they should receive a call from an elected official. Next time Teachers does a major acquisition in Australia, they should feel the support of their business and political community. The next time one of our banks does a major expansion in the United States, one of our leaders should call and talk about how pleased and proud they are and how important it is to keep those jobs at headquarters here in Toronto. And here's another suggestion. The next time we have an announcement to make of new job activity coming into Ontario, we all should be there to cheerlead and to show this new investor just how supportive the community is. And here's another suggestion. The next time governments have mandates for financial services mandates, in my view, they should go to the envy of the world, leading financial institutions based here in Canada, rather than those who broke up the financial world in the last year and continue to receive a great deal of attention for the stress they've created in the system. Governments must also ensure that centers of excellence flourish to support the needs of the private sector and that a high-quality trained workforce is available to fill the job quotas of tomorrow. And governments must support and can support critical mass. For example, as we've talked about, Toronto has a critical mass in financial services. To that end, it would be irresponsible if the National Securities Regulator was not headquartered here in Toronto.